Bandwidth for changelog is provided by Fastly. Learn more at fastly.com, and we're hosted on Linode servers. Head to linode.com/changelog.
Hey everyone, this is Ramya and it's go time.
It's Go Time, a weekly podcast where we discuss interesting topics around the Go programming language, the community, and everything in between. If you currently write Go or aspire to, this is the show for you. Welcome back, everybody, for another episode of Go Time. Today's episode is number 49, and today's sponsor is TopTal. Today on the show, we have myself, Eric St. Martin. We also have Carlicia Pinto. Say hi, Carlicia.
Hello, everybody.
And Brian Kettleson couldn't be here, but we are fortunate to have Johnny Borsico join us today.
Good to be back.
And our special guest for today, for all the VS Code lovers out there, is actually the author and maintainer of VS Code, Ramya. Welcome to the show.
Hey everyone, good to be here.
So do you want to maybe give everybody like a little bit of a background of kind of like who you are and what you're working on, and that you actually work for Microsoft as well?
Yes. Like you already said, my name is Ramya. I joined Microsoft straight out of college about 9 years ago in India. 4 years later, I moved to the US here in Seattle. Ever since, I've been in this group called Developer Division. We call it DevDiv. It's all about developers, developer tools, all the services that developers use, and so on. And I love this group. So, you finally get to be in a place where the product you make is usable by you. So you're your own customer. So that's a different high altogether. I've been in a couple of teams in DevDiv. First one was about developer content services, like how you have MSDN, you have TechNet. Microsoft is a big company, so almost every team had their own thing going when it goes to try to do content. So we tried to consolidate everything, bring everyone up to speed, try to lose the hold on 10, 15-year-old tools and try to use modern tools like Markdown, Git, and have a faster loop in that, write the content, get it out there. So did that for a while, then joined VSTS, that's your Visual Studio Team Services. That's like a collection of services needed for your ALM, application lifecycle management. So you have source control, you have work item, issue tracking, you have build for your continuous integration, you have release for your continuous deployment, all of this under a single umbrella. So if you think of the old school TFS, Team Foundation Server, which used to be, an on-prem product, VSTS is like a online offering of the same, but so much more. So did that, and then I heard VS Code was forming a team here in Redmond. So until then, VS Code was a team of about 10 people in Zurich, headed by Eric Gama. And I heard they're forming a team here in Redmond. So I was like, shouldn't lose that opportunity. And I joined the team about a year ago. So that's how I came to be in VS Code.
So were you using Go prior to starting on this plugin, or was this kind of like your intro to Go?
I hadn't even heard of Go, to be honest, before that. So what happened was I joined the team, and right about 2 months before I joined the team, the person who wrote the Go extension had left the company. That's Luke Hoban, for everyone. A big shout out for starting this whole amazing tool. And they decided, hey, let's give that thing to the new girl. So there I was, new to VS Code, new to VS Code extension story, new to Go, and I was the only maintainer / contributor for a while there. So yeah, that's how I came into Go.
So do you like and love Go now? Do you use it for other things now that you kind of were forced by way of building this extension?
I don't use it much in the day-to-day job because we don't get to use it in the product, like VS Code doesn't use Go. But once in a while, I try to write small programs and learn more about it.
That's really cool. So VS Code I think that's built on Electron, isn't it?
VS Code is built on Electron, yes. So the way it started was, initially about 5 years ago, Eric and a few others were thinking about, hey, let's look into having a developer experience, a coding experience in the browser, if we can do it, using web technologies. And that's how the Monaco editor came into being. It was used in, say, the Azure portal you can edit your Azure websites online. Later on, it was used in I11 in the debugging support. What you see there is Monaco. Then VSTS itself uses it, so you can edit code online. That's Monaco. And then I think right about that time, Electron was gaining traction as well. And, the team paused and thought which direction we want to take. And then since Electron was right there, and then you had this editor, and then things fell into place. And now you have VS Code, which is built on top of Electron. So that solves our cross-platform problem and lets you write this amazing product using just web technologies. I think I love that one thing about Electron. You no longer have, to write desktop applications, which is cross-platform. You no longer need to know the native technologies anymore. You know web tech, and that's all you need. And a little bit of knowledge.
So we heard that some other code editors have an issue of performance, and that it is due to what's the name again? Electron. But VS Code does not seem to have the same issue, performance issues. So did you tweak something to make the Electron performance issues go away? Or what we heard is not accurate and Electron has no performance issue whatsoever?
Well, I think the differentiator is the editor that's written on top of Electron. I believe they're two separate editors, both written on Electron.
I think you're referring to Adam.
We did say that? You did.
Oh, I didn't know we were supposed to be politically correct. No, Adam, yes. Adam is also like, it comes from the same, it is built on top of Electron. Yes, there is an opinion that certain slowness that you might see might be attributed to Electron, but I think it's just we had the time and smart design to go about building the product in a good way. And the team has been contributing back to Electron as well, as in when we saw the need for it. So we didn't do any tweaks just for performance, I believe. But Ben from the Zurich team would be a better person to answer that question. Nothing that I know of.
Okay.
Well, we shouldn't bash Adam too much. I think many of us still use that because for whatever reason we like some of the mechanics in there. But again, we run the risk of starting the editor war, which I'm sure we will touch on at some point during this podcast. But obviously. Yeah. Personally, I've been using VS Code for a better part of 4 or 5 months now, and before that, I was sort of a Vim diehard. And you will pry it from my cold dead hands kind of a user, and I still use Vim, pretty much on a daily basis. But when I'm doing my sort of Go development, VS Code has sort of become what I do pretty much on a daily basis as well.
I'm actually kind of surprised nobody kicked me off the show today. Because I'm still, you have to pry Vim from my cold dead fingers. Personally,
I to each his own. You sometimes get used to a certain tool, and that works for you, good for you. Whatever makes you productive and get the best out of the tool. So all we say is give everything a try and then see which works out for you.
Yeah, looking at VS Code and some of the new Lens stuff. Like it really looks enticing. But yeah, I think I use Vim because it's habit, right? Like lots of things are really good nowadays. Before, when I used Vim a lot, it was because, your alternatives are really, really clunky, like swing applications and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's just habit, and I'm often SSHing into boxes, and I can work just as efficiently, through an SSH session as I can locally. But yeah, some of the new editors really are enticing. And like the new Lens stuff is really cool. I think that's what you call it, right?
Yeah, the code Lens.
Yeah.
You know what you should try? you should try the Vim plugin on VS Code. So that might be an attempt to bridge and get the best of both worlds.
That was the first plugin I reached out for because,
Oh.
like, I basically have muscle memory with Vim, so it's in the moment I saw that there was actually a plugin for Vim and VS Code. That was like the first. I honestly cannot use VS Code without that plugin in there. So I'm just so used to sort of the way you do things in Vim. But somebody mentioned on the channel that there is a new editor that's I think either has come out or is in beta. I think it's called Goglan. I have a hard time pronouncing it. I don't know how it's meant to be pronounced, but.
Oh.
It's Goglan, I don't know, but that seems to right. But that to me, I tried that, and honestly, it felt so heavy to me. Like it just gave me nightmares from my Eclipse, Java days, and I was just like, oh, I don't know. I tried it, but it just wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Gogland is really good, especially for people who are working with Scala and Java and Go at the same time. They are loving that editor, but there are other people who also love it. I also tried and it wasn't for me. I am at the moment suffering from editor fatigue because I like investing time on my editor to make it as performant as possible for me. And I've done that, like optimized Vim for me, optimized Atom for me, and there was always something that wasn't good enough. So right now I'm giving VS Code a try, and I haven't done anything. It's very much bare because I am fatigued, but I am still giving it a try. I am having some issues with the Vim plugin because I get stuck on a visual mode, and it doesn't shift from like normal mode to insert mode and back to normal mode. Somehow the visual mode kicks in, and I think I am in normal mode, but I'm actually in visual mode. So I can't go from visual mode to insert mode. And once I realized that, like I clicked I 10 times, and then I have to go and click escape to get into normal mode, and then click I or A to start typing. This has been driving me crazy. I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Can you do that in normal Vim? Go from visual to insert? Like now I'm questioning that. I don't know whether I've ever tried that.
No, you can't. If you can, I don't know how, because that's exactly what happens. I don't know how I get into visual mode, but I'm constantly getting to visual mode. And then I want to go to insert thinking, well, I am normal mode, right? Because I didn't do anything to put myself in visual mode, but I'm in visual mode. And then I can't go into insert mode. I have to, oh, crap. Sorry. I have to go get escape. And, but another thing that I wanted to say is that it's good to know that Visual Studio did something special with the design to make it performant and not have the same performance issues that other editors might have, and not to have the intent of start an editor war. Especially, I was a huge Atom fan, but it's just good to know that if I stick with this, it's not going to get bloated down the road. It's going to have.
Yep. Performance is really important for us. We're looking into every phase of the startup, and seeing where we can improve, what's taking so much time. Another reason I believe it looks better or it feels better is the way we have our whole extensibility model. Our extensions run in a separate process than the main Visual Studio Code editor. So this way, say you've installed some extension, which for some weird reason takes a long time to do certain things, that does not block you from your normal editing experience, because this was a decision made very early on to have the extensions being hosted in a separate process and not impacting the main experience. So that might be another differentiating factor.
That might be the single best decision you made in the whole thing. I mean, honestly, it's like everybody's sort of saying in the channel and on the podcast is we every single one of us experiences some slowness from our editors at some point. And it seems like as you use them, the longer you have them open, the slower they tend to get and the more memory they consume. It's like you're using Chrome or something. It's just like at some point you want to have to reboot. But, I've had very little of that with VS Code. And I think it's part of that is because of that design of that architecture of having things running on separate processes.
Mm-hmm. And another thing, a note on your Vim concerns. So I have a contact for you. So you can tweet at him any questions you have on the Vim plugin. Peng would be happy to answer. So he spent quite a considerable amount of time getting the Vim plugin to the state it is now, from, as compared to like 7-8 months ago. So yeah, there's that.
I'm gonna do that because it drives me crazy, and I suspect it's sort of what's keeping me from investing time to soup up this editor.
Yeah,
because I haven't made my peace with this Vim plugin yet.
Well, see, that's always the struggle for me too. Is like there's been a lot of the Vim mode things and stuff, but it's really unfair of me to look at a new project as like, oh, it has Vim mode, and kind of look at it the same way I've had failures in other Vim modes. So I really need to like install VS Code and like take it for a test drive for a week with Vim mode, because I think Vim mode in other applications has gotten a lot better over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So does anybody actually use Vim mode for like I know Firefox had one. I think Chrome has an extension for Vim mode too. Does anybody use that stuff?
I used it for 5 minutes.
Same here.
I love Vim, but there's some things that are just easier to drive with a mouse.
Yeah, basically that was my hammer moment. I'm like, hey, I love Vim. Why not just use Vim in my browser environment and everything everywhere else? And then I'm like, okay, I can't use this everywhere. It's not really practical.
So to move on from the Vim talk, there is a PDF with a bunch of shortcuts for VS Code, and I'm not sure if it's just Vim or is VS. I think it's VS Code in general. Does anybody have that link? Because I lost it.
So we have something called as key maps. So if you're coming from Atom or if you're coming from Sublime, if you want to use your old, the old keyboard shortcuts that you're used to, and you want to use them in VS Code, yeah. So go to your extension. Go to your extensions pane.
You just made a friend for life.
Yes, yes.
So if you have VS Code open right now, so just search for key map in the extension pane, and you will get one for Sublime, Atom, from Visual Studio, Emacs, Eclipse, Emacs. Oh,
that's Emacs, what I need.
NetBeans. There are a couple of them.
Of course, at this point, I forgot about the shortcuts. No, I really needed that. Awesome.
Yeah, the intention here was that if anybody is moving from, another editor, we wanted to make it as easy as possible for you to, get on board.
So where do I go? So I installed that for Atom, which is what I used to use before. My Atom was all souped up. So where do I go now to see what those mappings were? Because at this point, I forgot.
So just click on Atom key map, and on the right side, you should be able to see more information about it. And there are links right there.
Ah, great. Awesome.
Live tech support, ladies and gentlemen.
Right?
Oh my gosh, is this going to turn into a customer support call now?
Yes.
Do me now. Let me open my editor.
That was so my intention all along. It's like a customer support tutorial.
And then she had Brad Fitzpatrick on just to get him to merge her pull request.
And it worked.
Oh man. So Ramya, one thing I sort of wanted to dive a little deeper on is that so I think Eric mentioned earlier that there was a code lens, sort of a new capability that was added, I think, earlier this year in VS Code. What exactly does that provide you under the hood as sort of a plugin maker? Like, what exactly? How is that different from what was there or not there before? Like, what is the function of CodeLens? How does that help you, especially when it comes to Go?
Okay, so CodeLens in itself has been in VS Code for quite some time. Codeless in the Go extension is what was new. So when I say new, it's not that that technology wasn't available before. It's just that nobody thought of implementing it in the Go extension. So Codeless for you is something actionable, something contextual. So, for example, it appears right above a function or a method, and it is in context to that function or a method. So you can have it for like how we have now for references, run tests, and so on and so forth. Other extensions can do their own thing. For example, there's one extension I know, which in your package JSON, in your say if you're doing Node, in your package JSON, it adds a codeless right above each dependency saying what's the latest dependency, the version. So you could use it for any which reason. And it's just that in Go, we got the time to do it now, and now you see it.
Pretty cool.
So you talked about kind of CodeLens being in there for a while. What's some new stuff that has come out in the plugin or that you're currently working on that you're really excited about?
Currently, some of the things I'm excited about is, things that help you write your code faster, like stubs. Have an interface and get all the methods of the interface implemented with stubs in it. So somebody from the community has submitted a PR on that, so I'm excited about that. In the same lines, there are more stub related things. Extract method, that is something which I had my eye on for quite a while. I tried using Go Doctor, but that didn't work out for many scenarios. So I'm thinking Guru has a feature called free variables, I believe. So if anybody's interested, try out free variables to implement the extract method feature. So those are the two things.
Do you get a lot of outside contributions to this project? Are you actively seeking for like people to help with some tickets you have open?
I am definitely actively seeking for help. There have been more contributions than before. So when I write the release notes, it makes me so happy when I see more names than mine. So I try to keep that balance. So from the past couple of releases, yes, there has been more contributions, and I would love to have more than that also. I'm here to help figure out debug issues with you. That's how we got the references codeless, by the way. Somebody thought it was a good idea and started working on it, and he hit a blocker, and then we worked together, and then in the next 2-3 days, we had the references codeless.
Wow,
that's awesome. So looking at the issues on the project, you have about 27 with help wanted on them. 5 of them which have been tagged as easy, so it should be pretty straightforward for somebody to sort of jump in and at least look at some things, maybe contribute back. So one of the things I sort of wanted to touch on, what are you actually writing your code in, for the editor? Like, is it like TypeScript? Is it like what are you actually developing in?
It's TypeScript. Yeah. So VS Code extensions, all VS Code extensions are written in either TypeScript or JavaScript. And then if you're trying to give language support, there is something called as language service. I don't know if you've heard of the language service protocol that Microsoft and Red Hat, and there was a hackathon of sorts a year ago, and then we came up with the language server protocol. The idea behind this is you implement a language server once, and then you're able to use that against multiple editors, the ones that support language servers. So that you can write in any language you want. But extensions are TypeScript and JavaScript.
I want to ask also, Ramya, how do you, one, come up with features to add to VS Code, and 2, prioritize what should go in at any given point? And that makes me think of Fatih and Vim Code. Vim Code. Am I saying that right?
Vimgo.
Vimgo, thank you. I knew it was wrong. And he's a developer. He's developing all day long. And then he does Vim Code. And I'm sure, I don't know this for fact, but I would think that pretty much his thinking goes, well, I need this or I want this, so I'm going to put it in. And I'm sure he's listening to other people as well, but it's very much him making Vim Go the best editor for him, which very much coincides with the rest of the community who are using Vim. How does VS Studio go about making those decisions?
So initially, after Luke was done with the basic, features like formatting, linting, and your build, and so on and so forth. After that, when I came into picture, initially my plan was I look at issues, the one that was easy to do, and I just got started with that. So that was my first 1 month of handling the project. Tried to get all the easy ones out of the, hit it out of the park. After that, I started going through the backlog, which is like about 100 issues, and then seeing where do you see the most passion from the community? What kind of issues have the most upvotes? And then I started targeting that. That's how I got the. So in your completion, you can without even importing a package, you can say if you didn't import math, you can type math dot and you will get completion for that. Now
that is amazing, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
That was one feature request where a lot of people were like, it would be cool to have this. And I'm like, why not? So that's my current criteria of, deciding that is which feature requests have the most number of upvotes or the most number of, passionate people saying they'd like to see it.
So you're saying that it really makes a difference when people are active and they go and they voice out their opinions and
yes, definitely
what they want to have added to the
But at the same time, it's not like the only measure. Like I know that there's one feature request for which there are 35 upvotes or something, but I still haven't gotten to that because implementing that with the current set is just going to have a slow experience. So until there's like a faster solution, I didn't want to jump into it right away. So it's a mix of all these things. And then the other direction, sometimes from the core VS Code product, we release some APIs, some new features. By default, TypeScript and JavaScript is supported by default, right? By VS Code. And we support new language features. Now it's up to the extension owners to get up to speed and implement them in their own extensions. So this is sometimes from the other direction, I get ideas that, VS Code can now do this, so I should implement that in the Go extension. So that is another way where things can happen. That is the one way you can keep up with the product. Else you end up in a state where you see that, VS Code can do ABC, but I don't see the Go extension doing it. So unless you play catch up with the core product, you won't get to see those cool features.
Makes sense.
Oh, wow. So you actually have like continued development just to kind of stay up to speed with the core editor itself.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a constant backlog, right? You want to work on new features, but you also have to, it's almost like technical debt, right? Like you have to make sure you stay up because the longer you avoid implementing the new features, the further away that gets.
Yes. I think there was one debugging related feature which came about like that. So you can now have, there's a launch.json file. If you need to debug your code, you need to have that file, and that's where you add your configuration. Initially, you had to just handwrite it based on some document. Now you have snippets that you can use in that file. So you can have a snippet for debugging your test function, or a snippet to debug your package. So the scaffolding is there, and then you edit the snippet. So now that was one feature coming out from the core product. And the hook was there. All the Go extension needed to do is implement the snippets that's needed and hook it up, and then you start seeing it in the debug configs.
By the way, does anybody want to share with me their snippets configuration? Because I have 0, and I want snippets for starting a new function or writing from println or something.
So one thing that can help you there is, I think, let me just quickly try it before saying that it's possible. You can say insert snippet in the command palette, and that'll open up all the snippets that the Go extension can do for you or can give you. So
insert.
I'm trying it right now.
Snippet. Me too.
I feel like I should have had VS Code installed before this.
You should have. You might have gotten some free tech support.
Eric converted to VS Code Live.
So those are the snippets that come out of the box from the Go extension, and then you can create your own as well.
So how does that work? For example, there is a snippet that's called if, and it's for an if statement. So I type if and do what? Tab? That's not working.
You can do.
How do I?
No, you don't type that. You just choose it. Like use your.
Oh, I see. It's too much clicking though for me.
So that is if you.
I want to type like a couple letters in tab.
Yeah, that's possible as well. So in the editor, if you know what the prefix is, like for example, type for, and I think there are 2 snippets for that comes up in your suggestion list.
Sorry, what do I have to type?
Oh, for the for loop, just type for, and
Uh-huh.
it will suggest the snippets for you.
Yes.
Snippets have a different ID.
Oh, I have to, the first 4 that comes up is not the snippets. The
So
first thing that comes
part
up,
is a keyword. So in case
Yes.
it's just the keyword.
So
and
I have
then
to.
the second and the third are snippets. So you differentiate them by what is the icon in the suggestion item. So those box kind of things are snippets.
So I have to type the downward arrow to get to the other ones. Is there a quicker way?
You can map it.
You can there's a setting to show the snippet suggestion up top or bottom or inline. So you can play with that.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So preference settings.
Yeah. Or command comma. That's a shortcut. This is really becoming a customer support, isn't it?
Yeah, I know.
I'm not even looking at Slack. Are people asking questions in Slack?
No, we're basically joking about stuff and Carlisia's clicky keyboard.
Okay.
I forgot. I'm so sorry. I forgot to change my keyboard. Oh my gosh.
I usually trade mine out too. I've got a mechanical keyboard.
The end of the show, and I realized this. Sorry, guys.
It's all right. You get geek creds for that.
I think everybody's trying to guess which Cherry MX you're using based on the sound of the clicking.
Okay, I don't know if I should say or if I should let people guess. It's the brown one.
It's the brown.
Yeah. Thor got it.
There you go. Thor 4 got it on the channel. There you go. I do want to switch gears from tech support briefly.
Yes, please.
So you sort of took over from Luke right around October of last year. And then now you're sort of effectively playing the role of product manager, encoding, from what you're hearing and doing your own triaging and, trying to keep up with language changes and trying to keep up with VS Code changes. So there's sort of a lot going on. Like how do you and obviously this, you kind of got thrust into this role. Like, what would you say has been sort of the biggest lessons you've learned from this experience so far?
That's an awesome question. So initially when I started, you need to know this was my first open source project as well, right?
Oh, wow.
So I was all excited. Thank you. I was very excited, the whole process, talking to random strangers and discussing code and doing PRs. And it was an awesome experience. And in that, I think in the initial few months, I got so carried away that I was releasing an update every week because I was like, ooh, shiny new thing. I can do this. And then do 3 or 4 things, boom, update. And then I kept doing that. And then the lesson I learned was that doesn't scale. And also because, like you said, I was the product manager, the developer, the person going around fetching requirements, the tester, the customer engagement person, so all rolled into one. And that was a rush as well. Coming from the previous teams where you're just a developer, the PM comes up with a design or a requirement, and then you discuss what the technical aspects are, and then you go implement it, and then that's done. But here it's everything rolled into one, and that was another high as well. So for a couple of months, I absolutely loved it. I was like checking my notifications like every half an hour to see, is there anybody asking something? Should I answer that? Should I say this? It was hard for me to pace myself and get into a rhythm. But yeah, that was one lesson, that is slow down. And now I release almost once a month now. That's a much better frequency
Cadence.
to, yes, a
Right.
much better cadence. And yeah, I still reply and to notifications like once a day instead of every half an hour. Um, so yeah, that was my lesson.
I think the difficulty too, when you think about it, is like when you're developing a product for your employer, there's usually a chain, a hierarchy, right? And you're reporting to
Yes.
somebody, and you're only responsible for making that person happy, and they, work out the details between you and other teams and how that's impacted. But like an open source project, literally thousands of people are now your boss, and they all have their own priorities and things that they want and need, and sometimes they conflict, and you're like, how do I make everybody happy?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that has happened as well. But at the same time, I think I've told this to a few people already. There was this one time that I was discussing this PR with a person, and then I was like, this won't work in this scenario, but this might be better. And then they go, "Oh yeah, that's right, you're amazing." And then I almost teared up. Like in my 9 years of experience, like this is so much better than any appraisal. But yeah, I never knew that a simple thank you from a total stranger feels so good.
That's awesome. And that's actually part of the reason why we try to do our free software Friday every week too, is just to kind of reminder, like you usually reach out to open source projects like when you need something. So like, you can't advocate enough, like just file an issue telling people how much you love the work they're doing. Or maybe share an issue. That could probably get pretty bloated if 1,000 people file an issue like, we love you, thank you.
Or just give them some props on Twitter, like most people do.
Yeah. So I think we are probably well over our first sponsor break. So let's go ahead and break for our sponsors because they make this show happen. Our sponsor for today is TopTal.
Hey everyone, Adam Stacoviak here, editor-in-chief of Changelog. Our friends at TopTal have been sponsoring our podcast for years, and now they're sponsoring GoTime as well. We think they're one of the best ways to hire developers and designers, as well as one of the best ways to freelance as a software developer or designer. Head to toptal.com/go to learn more. Tell them you heard about them on GoTime. If you'd like a more personal introduction, email me, adam@changelog.com. And now back to the show.
And we are back talking to Ramya from the VS Code plugin. I think we kind of talked quite a bit about the plugin and kind of like the future and stuff. Do you guys want to jump into any projects and news? I think the past couple episodes, we haven't got a chance to get around to anything. I think the list was piling up. I might need to go through some of the old show docs.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
So I found a cool project. Well, technically, I'm not responsible for finding it. My brother linked me to it to show me how cool it is. And it's along the editor thing. And hopefully Ramya won't beat me up because of it. But there's
Hey, I
something
already said to each his own, whatever you like.
So
no matter how bad it is.
I thought it was really cool because it's also tied to Go. It's called Go NVim, and it's like a GUI front end for NVim written in Go. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I haven't tried it yet, so I can't tell you whether I love it or hate it. But I just saw it and it looks pretty cool. Although I'm kind of I kind of want to drink the Kool-Aid on the VS Code, so I think I'm going to end up playing with VS Code before this. So other people can try this and tell me how much they love it. Another cool thing that I just saw yesterday, which also came from Microsoft, the Azure team, it's called Draft, which looks really cool. It's like basically a way of like determining the type of application you're running. and automatically generating like Docker files and the Kubernetes specs for it so that you can kind of locally write code and then run a command and have it kind of deployed out to a sandbox in a Kubernetes cluster.
Ooh, Docker reminds me, we have a Docker extension.
For VS Code?
Yep.
Oh, cool. I wonder what features are in that for like completion and things like that.
You should go check it out.
I should. Even more reason to try it. I don't think I have a Docker extension in Vim.
There you go.
So it's still in the beginning phase. So file away feature requests or what you'd like to see and so on. It's open source.
Just installed it. It was that quick.
Wow.
I love like I've always tried to live by the philosophy like pull request instead of issue. Like if I'm able to address it, like I prefer to try to add the functionality or fix the broken stuff myself.
Better yet, both issue with pull requests.
That's true too, because then people can follow along.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't know when GopherCon Singapore was now. It was a couple weeks ago. I can't remember the dates, but the videos for that are on YouTube.
Nice. How many talks were there?
That's a good question. There were 17.
Wow, that's a lot of videos to watch.
Yeah, and admittedly, there's videos from other conferences that have taken place this year that I'm still really far behind on, and I don't quite know how to catch up. Like, there's no more time in a day. Where do I squeeze these in? And even if like now there's so many conferences and so much content being generated, it's like even if you watched one video per day, you would never catch up.
It's a good problem to have.
It is. It definitely is.
So talking about conferences, we should also mention that GopherCon is next month. I'm so excited.
Oh yeah, because it's technically June right now. So yeah,
yep.
1 month away.
So we should mention that the CFP for Lightning Talks is open.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Where is that?
It is open. I'll pull up a link and we can drop it in the channel, and we'll drop it on Twitter too, just so people who won't listen to this for a week have an opportunity to see it. Are you going to be at GopherCon, Ramya?
Yeah. I wasn't sure, but then Jana from Google reached out and then she was like, you should be there. I'm like, okay. And I'm going to be there.
You should be there. We should get you like a your own booth just for people to meet and greet and thank you.
As long as it doesn't convert into a customer support booth.
No.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
I cannot go to the booth. It'll be all customer supporty.
You put a sign there that says only love, no question.
No, you can ask me any questions if you find me. And if you have your laptop or Mac with you, we can look at stuff.
Are you signed up for the RSVP for the Women Who Go dinner?
Oh, there's a Women Who Go dinner? Sorry, I've not been up to date with it.
No, that's all right. I'll send you the link.
I should. My flight tickets. Should do that.
Have you been to one prior, or will this be your first?
No, this is my first GopherCon. But conferences wise, I've been to Grace Hoppers and then a couple of conferences here in Microsoft. So yeah, looking forward to it.
I'm excited. There's so many things that we're hiding behind the scenes. That's going to be super cool.
Mm-hmm.
We're having a lot of fun with it. I might leak a couple of things too, or at least one of them I'm working on.
You're teasing.
I am teasing. That's kind of the fun. Like one of my favorite things about doing the conference and stuff like that is like when you get to tease some of the stuff, like when I drop like pictures of like the room keys and things like that. Like it's so much fun to see how excited people are. Like, oh my God, I need one of those.
I think I have half a dozen room keys from my last GopherCon.
I don't even know what we did we had a box of a couple hundred of them, I think, left over from printing. I don't even know what we did with them. And there's been some swag we've donated to like local shelters and stuff like that. Like mugs and things like that. So like I can imagine like all these people who don't do technology walking around with like GopherCon swag. It's funny though, like even wearing like the swag, like the amount of looks you get where people don't really understand why a grown man is wearing like a cartoon gopher on his shirt.
It's priceless. It's great. Get a weird look all the time with that.
Yeah, I never even really give it any thought. I just wear the stuff, and occasionally people will ask me about it. But so, what else do we have?
Yeah, I think we still have a few things on the list here. I see a high performance Go talk with assembly from FOSDEM.
Yeah, there was a somebody from the Minio team spoke at FOSDEM this year, and they were doing some like SIMD stuff and everything using not normal assembly, but Go's assembly language to implement part of it. And I watched the video. I was multitasking at the time, so I vaguely remember some of the details, but I remember there were parts of it where they had gained something like 100 times performance by basically implementing the function itself in kind of assembly.
Wow.
So super cool. We'll link to that in the show doc if you're interested in that type of stuff.
I was gonna mention that Just for Funk, the show that Princess Kim Boy puts out, I think weekly or bi-weekly. I'm not sure how often he's doing them now, but they're always fun to watch. His last one was about he wrote a text-to-speech server with gRPC and Kubernetes. It was fun to watch because I hadn't used gRPC before. I knew about it, but didn't quite know where it would sort of apply to the things I do. It was interesting to sort of, he gave a brief overview of the technology as he was sort of actually live coding the whole experience, and went on to deploy it with Kubernetes. So it was kind of cool, sort of end to end to see that project come together. It was very fun watch. So I definitely encourage folks to go and check it out.
I have not seen that new one, but I love watching those things. He's such a trip.
Yeah, he has fun with those.
Do you watch the Just for Funk series, Ramya?
I watched one. Does that count?
It counts. It counts.
Okay.
I mean, that's watching them. I'm pretty sure Carlicia watches them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably one of the series that I try to make a point to watch. The conference stuff, I almost have to pick and choose now just because there's just too much content.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think somebody in here put something about DevOps Day.
Yeah, it's me. I wanted to mention this a couple shows ago, and we ended up not going over the section. And last week I wasn't here. I really wanted to make sure to mention this talk that Kelsey Hightower gave at DevOps Days Austin a few weeks ago. Really huge shout out to him for so many things, but especially for giving this talk. It's he goes into his background and his story, his coming of age story, how he got into tech and how he stayed in tech and some of the experiences he had. And I think it's a really worthwhile talk to watch because, especially for people who are fans of his, because you get to know him a little better. And nevertheless, I always think that software development is a lot about people. And you get a bit of insights on how someone can be so vulnerable and open up the stories that people usually don't talk about. And it's not sometimes because people don't want to talk about. It's just it's hard to fit in telling a story like that in a day-to-day basis or in a conference talk. So people, you don't usually get to hear those stories. And I think there are a lot of people like that, not just minorities, but everybody has struggles, and some people more than others, and some people perceive those struggles more than others, and have a harder time, of course. But nevertheless, everybody's got struggles, and if you don't, it's good to also to learn how people have challenges. And one thing that he said resonated with me a lot was, the whole talk resonated with me, and frankly, I was in tears. Got really emotional. And good thing that I didn't mention this talk the day that I watched, because I was going to really get emotional. But at any rate, he said he was describing an encounter he had with somebody that, so this white male was really surprised to see a black male come into his house and do amazing work with technology. Basically, he probably never saw a black guy in any type of doing any type of professional work, just because where he lived, probably his context, no fault of his own particularly. That's how he was. And he was extremely surprised to see him perform at that level. And it showed. And Kelsey says something like, gotta give people a chance. Basically, he says something like this. And he says, and I'm quoting him, people can change. And if you do it right, you get to watch it happen. Which obviously is a very positive take on these challenging encounters that we can have with people who look at us and say, well, I never expected you to be doing this. So, or maybe even doubt that we can do it. Or that we are doing it right at all. And one takeaway from that I felt was, given my own experience, was the beauty of watching ourselves change. We go, going from you don't know anything, you want to work on a field and you don't know anything, and you go through the process of learning, and that is hard. And then you get to start performing, and then you get better, and then you're teaching, you're mentoring, and that process. And then you become a person on the other side. And sometimes I look at myself and I go, wow. So the process of also watching myself change is amazing. It's amazing that I got to watch that happen. And I don't take that for granted either. At any rate, that's my, I think it's a good talk to watch.
Yeah, I think it was a really emotional talk, and to hear that backstory. And those types of things are really awesome because they humanize these people that, you start to realize that, the whole kind of perception is reality, and we see people and we see what they're doing, and we kind of like paint this picture of who that person is and, how they got there, and the whole like myth of overnight success or whatnot. And you get to kind of see that struggle that people have endured, and you start to realize that we all live lives of struggle, and everybody overcomes things in different ways. And yeah, and Kelsey, he's had some kind of like threads on Twitter too, with kind of like being more vulnerable and open about his history. And it's just really awesome to see somebody, that holds kind of that position in the community kind of open up about his past. And it humanizes people. And same thing here. Like we have Ramya on the show about VS Code, right? This was your introduction into open source and introduction into Go and all of these things. And the picture you paint is often much different than the reality.
Yeah,
it's been a fun journey.
Yeah. I would have guessed you had been writing Go and they were like, oh, I love VS Code, so I'm going to write a plugin. That's typically the way these things work. So I'm really happy that it was handed off to you though, because it looks amazing. And even though I don't use it yet, you may convert me. Like I think when we had Edward Muller on the show, I believe it was the top two, right? Vim and VS Code were the top two editors people writing Go use.
Yeah.
So I mean that's amazing, especially with
that was a good thing to hear, because that also motivates me, to that's the kind of feedback that helps you as a project maintainer / contributor to keep doing what you're doing, right? So that was good to know.
Yeah, it makes you feel like the work you're doing is worthwhile, that you're, helping a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So does anybody else have any other interesting projects, news, announcements, and anything we want to talk about before we move into Free Software Friday? I will take that as a no. So, I don't know whether you listened to the show, Ramya, but we talked about it a little bit earlier. So, usually just before we close out the show, we do something called Free Software Friday, where each of us kind of goes through and we just thank a person, a company, project that makes our lives easier in the open source world, just to kind of give them the love and recognition. It does not have to be Go. Oftentimes, it actually isn't recently. But yeah, that's just something we do. If you have something that you would like to thank, you're welcome to join us. If not, that's fine too. Carlisa, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, sure. So today, I guess, is the shout out day to people as opposed to software mostly. I want to give a shout out to JBD because, and that's Jana B. Dogan. She works for Google and she does a lot of Go work. And she works mostly on, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but she does a lot of performance work and investigation about how Go can be improved as a language. And to my understanding, she also is leading the DevX group, which is the developer working group, which aims to make the onboarding experience better for developers, among other things. And she has many open source projects that are amazing. And she has also a very good blog post about related to Go. Her blog posts, I think, are very worthwhile reads. In other words, she's an amazing person, really hard worker. I don't think she gets enough recognition, and I want to make sure we recognize her today.
Yeah, we all love JBD. Like, she puts out some really great blog posts and stuff too. Like, I've learned a lot from her over the years.
And she also was on the show. I just want to mention she was on the show on episode 22.
Did you know that by heart, or did you look it up?
I looked it up. I wrote it down.
Because I think there was an episode where you called out an episode number somebody was on without looking it up, and I was shocked.
I'm sure I was shocked too.
Once it's like 2 episodes ago, maybe, I forget. Like, I know it was just a few episodes ago. How about you, Johnny?
For myself, I've been using this sort of debugging aid called Q. I think it was a port from a project that originated from the Python community. But let me see, Yosarian on GitHub. We can post a link. Yeah, I think he ported that over. Q is basically a better thumped printf, basically. Rather than, I don't use a debugger like if you're familiar with Delve or anything like that. I'm not a big fan of debuggers. I'm more of the old school, print it out, log it out, and then I'll see why I'm in the program kind of thing. And for me, using Q has sort of been a better experience for that. So typically, the way it works is that you'd have basically a terminal console open, and you just run QQ, and what that does is that it basically just opens up a stream that starts to output in a really nice formatted way sort of anything that you're sort of pushing out from your code. So back in your actual Go code, obviously you import the Q library, and then wherever you need to sort of, where you typically would do like a log printf or from printf, you use Q and then Q and then whatever it is you want to dump out, and then basically that just appears on the stream, and basically it's nicely formatted, and it'll sort of give you hints, some metadata around where it is that you outputted the statement. So it's been like really nice. I pretty much do all my sort of standard out sort of debugging just by having that running, and then just calling QQ and where sprinkle that throughout my Go code, and it just it's been a very nice aid for debugging. So shout out to the developer who ported it over. I use it pretty much every day. Thank you.
And how about you, Ramya? Did you have anybody?
Ooh, I have lots. So first shout out to Luke Hoban for creating the Go extension to begin with back in November 2015, and giving me that resulted in me getting this awesome project to contribute to. So that's one. Two is all the amazing people who've written these tools like, Go Code, Go Dev, Go Dog, Go Get Dog, all these tools that internally we use in the extension. So thank you for making these tools. And my third and last one would be a big shout out to everyone who's been, creating PRs, logging issues, making sure that, we are on top of all the good features in the Go extension. So love you all. Thank you very much. And keep doing it. And I'll try to answer it.
So mine today, I'm actually going to give a shout out to a company, and that is actually Microsoft. Because I think the past couple of years, like we've seen a whole new Microsoft. Your contributions to the Go plugin, VS Code itself, contributions to Docker and Kubernetes, that they just acquired Deis, and that draft thing that just came out. Like I think we're really starting to see a lot of contribution and outreach and community involvement from the Microsoft team. So I think that that's really awesome. And I'm really appreciative of the fact that they pay people money to work on these things that we get to use.
Agreed.
Did anybody have any more they want to throw in before we close out the show?
Did we already shout out Ramya for her work on the actual plugin?
Yeah.
I think she deserves a shout out, right?
Without a doubt.
Thank you.
So thank you, Ramya, for the work that you do, and we hope you keep doing it.
I sure will.
And thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been a lot of fun, and we definitely want to stay in touch and keep up with all the changes and additions to the VS Code plugin and VS Code itself. Because you're more aware of that stuff than we are.
It was great to be here. You can reach out to me. I'm on Twitter now. Matt mentioned in the other podcast that I wasn't much, but learned my lesson. I'm on Twitter now, and you can give out my handle, and you guys can ask me any questions related to the Go extension or VS Code in general. I'll try to answer. If I don't know, I'll definitely know the person who knows. So I can forward your questions and queries. So feel free to reach out.
Awesome.
And thanks again for being on the show, and thanks to everybody who is on the panel today, and especially thank you, Johnny, for stepping in for Brian today. Always love having you on the show. Thanks to all the listeners who are listening live and everybody who will listen to this once it's produced. Big shout out to our sponsor, TopTal. Again, show them some love because they make this thing happen for us. Definitely share the show with fellow Go programmers. If you want to subscribe, you can go to gotime.fm. We do have a weekly email that we're going to be starting hopefully soon. So go ahead and subscribe to that. You can follow us on Twitter at GoTimeFM. And if I don't run out of breath, if you have something you want to talk about on the show or suggestions for a guest, please file an issue on github.com/GoTimeFM/ping. And I think that's it. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. This was fun.
Bye.
All right, that wraps up this episode of Go Time. Tune in live on Thursdays at 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern at changelog.com/live. Join the community and Slack with us in real time at the changelog.com/community. Follow us on Twitter. We're at GoTimeFM. Special thanks to TopTal for sponsoring this show. Also, thanks to Fastly, our bandwidth partner. Head to fastly.com to learn more. This episode was edited by Jonathan Youngblood, and the theme music for Go Time is produced by Breakmaster Cylinder. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for listening.